Yeah, so threads are basically it's like the hipster Twitter now, I
Yep.
guess, because it's the new thing. I don't even know if you can use hashtags. I don't. I tried. I don't know if it has any effect.
All I know
But
is I saw you reached out to the stars, and I was like, I think my very second thing I ever is it threaded or sewed? I don't know what you say.
I don't even know. I already had to turn the notifications off because I get too annoyed.
Oh, I have notifications turned off for everything. That's why I'm never in the group chat.
Unless I tag you that I'm eating Taco
Unless it's
Bell.
tagged, and then there's a red thing on my screen on my home screen. I go, oh, someone mentioned me. No, I was like, oh, maybe now I can get a One Wheel sponsorship for the podcast. And One Wheel followed me. I'm like, I don't care if you follow me. How about a One Wheel? So yeah, what was that taco? What is that?
So that's the volcano taco. The volcano menu is something that I've been looking forward to coming back for, I kid you not, for 20 years. It came out in like the early 2000s, maybe the late 1900s, as the kids say. And it was just, it's a lava sauce, they call it. It's like a spicy sauce that they put on their tacos and burritos.
So is
And
that whole shell, the red shell, is that spicy?
it's supposed to be like a spicy Doritos Locos tacos, because you know how they had like the Cool Ranch one and then like a Dorito flavored crispy taco, and it's just it's life changing, man. I'm telling you, I've never been so excited for a fast food thing, and trust me, I get excited about food, and that when I don't even care about Paris Hilton, and then she came up on my screen and she was like, "That's hot," and I was like, "What are you talking about? I haven't heard you say that in a decade." And then they were like, "Volcano menu's back."
Oh, like that hot, the volcano menu.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just caught
And
on.
it just made my entire 2023. Nothing
Uh,
can happen. Nothing bad can happen, Brownie. 2023 is our year. Volcano menu's back for a limited time only.
I gotta try it next week. It's gonna be
It's so
fucking
good.
brutal. I'm not
It's
looking forward. Just the pictures alone make my stomach clench.
oh, it's some of the best food is some of the worst looking stuff.
That's
Just
fair, I
let it
guess.
happen. But I would also, if you have any issues with heartburn, take some medicine for that, because it'll spice you up.
All right, I'm gonna play the music. Here we go.
All right, all right.
The countdown going on right now. Morrow up to Schultz. 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! And this one will last a lifetime.
Welcome to the morning skate.
Welcome to the Morning Skate, episode 293. Ignore the screen and pay attention to the scroll for those YouTube people. Ked has some family stuff going on, so he tapped Fink off the Black Aces to hop on the starting lineup. So it's your host Brownie with my co-host Fink tonight. Fink, how are you, buddy?
I'm fantastic, Brownie. We had a little bit of a scare at the house yesterday. AC was kind of shoddy, and I know everyone kind of gives Texans a hard time for how we deal with cold weather, but I can't deal with hot weather down here. I mean, I think we had a week straight of over 100. Heat index was upwards of like 116. So when that air starts creeping up above 75 in the house, and you can kind of tell it's scary. But everything's good. We problem solved. Air's flowing. We're
Air
living
conditioning is one of those low key, like one of the most important inventions of our time.
by far. And I get like a lot of people throughout the North and like Pacific Northwest specifically don't have it, and I understand why. But I also think it is kind of silly when they're like, "Oh, it's above 75." It's blistering hot in my house and outside. I'm like, "Well, if you guys had AC,
Yeah,
fine."
I mean, we have the ACs going. It's funny though, with working outside, I don't like to come in for lunch because it just makes it that much worse when you go back out.
Oh, absolutely.
So a lot of times you just kind of eat in the shade. But I will say, my 3 years that I lived down the Keys, I had air conditioning for only about a year and a half because Island Breeze.
Ooh.
I didn't. It was fine. I just put like a box fan on the window, and then the bar I was working at closed, and they were like, "Yeah, we can't take any of this shit with us." And I'm like, "Is that an air conditioner?" And they were like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Thank you,
Mine.
yoinks." And I put that in my room, and I'm like, "What the fuck? Why did I wait so long?" But
Paradise.
yeah. All right, well, we have quite a bit because 31 out of 32 teams actually did something. Columbus, I'm looking at you, you fucking losers.
Ooh.
They free agent frenzy. We got a lot. We are. I know some podcasts that put it all by division and conference. We went alphabetical because I just feel like it's easier, and I put together the document. So there
Yeah,
you have it.
that's how we were taught when we were kids.
That's it, man. So let's jump in with some mea culpas, and I got to remember to play all the music. So I
It might be a
think,
mea culpa in itself.
nah, I think this is it. Here we go.
Hi, this is Mea Culpa, and I'm here to introduce the Morning Skates Mea Culpas with Cat and Brownie.
With Cat and Fink. With Brownie and Fink. God damn it.
Mea culpa number one.
So these are just really updates. The killer whale that we talked about a while back that started the attacks on boats, her name is White Gladys. She is the matriarch of the pod, was pregnant when these attacks started because she was hit by a boat while pregnant, and she's now taking her 2-year-old calf along on these attacks. And if you've ever seen the documentary Blackfish, and if you consider yourself a lover of animals, you should watch that documentary Blackfish. Aggressive parents of orcas that are aggressive parents breed aggressive offsprings. And this other pod is, I think, her sister, and that's what's going on over in the coast of Spain. So
Yeah.
White
Also,
Gladys.
prepare yourself if you're going to watch Blackfish and you have not seen it, because you will be depressed.
Yeah, it is sad. It is sad, and it makes you root for the orcas out in the wild.
Absolutely. Which is weird because the Canucks are terrible.
Yeah, but those are cool jerseys. The indigenous one, where it's all
Absolutely.
the Maori tribe one.
Yep.
So Zuck, the update on Zuck versus Musk. There is a venue. TMZ has reported that Italy's Minister of Culture has extended an offer to the two billionaires to have their match at the Coliseum. Per both camps, the site has been part of talks, and they are speaking to Dana White on a daily basis, quote unquote.
So weird. Just such a weird bit.
Fight for control of, like, Musk puts up Twitter and Tesla, and Zuckerberg puts up Facebook, Instagram, and
Threads. I think it should be just a Twitter, like we were talking about, Twitter versus Threads. Whoever wins the match, the other one's platform gets demolished, disappears.
I would like to see one of them go away. One of the people involved.
I would like to see Elon Musk go away before we dive super deep into this free agent frenzy talk, because I don't know if you were on Twitter at all during the free agent frenzy when it started. Twitter completely shit the bed. Just
what was it? You were only allowed to look at 600 tweets. Is that what it was?
Something. Well, I think they did that because they were having trouble with so many people being active at one time. And this is probably wrong, so I might be a mea culpa next week. But I think because of the massive amount of traffic that was going into Twitter, it completely shut it down. On arguably, for us as hockey fans, one of the most important days to have Twitter up and
NBA
running.
also, right? Wasn't it NBA also the same day?
I know NBA had something going on. I don't know if it was of the same gravitas as our free agent frenzy in the NHL, because I think with the NBA there's not as much like surprises, because you know this, player A, B, and C, you're going to ask for a max contract between 90 and 150 million dollars. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I'll never understand it.
There was something about the amount of traffic and the advertisers, and they couldn't monetize it in time. And it was like basically like someone went, "Oh fuck, we fucked that up."
Yeah.
And advertisers were pushing back, and that's the name of the game, right?
Yep.
And so then his fix was you were shut out if you don't have a blue check mark in order to generate revenue. And then more people didn't buy the blue check mark, so it kind of backfired. So yeah. I heard someone describe Elon Musk as a very smart man who goes out of his way to portray himself as a moron. And it's always stuck with me that this guy is just, he can't get out of his own way.
He is the smartest dumbass in the world.
There you go. That's a much more concise way of saying it. So, all right, here we go. NHL news, free agent frenzy. And I just dawned on me how much I'm going to be fucking talking this podcast.
If you want to go back and forth, we'll go back and forth. You go ahead and start, and then I'll take over.
Right.
I'm a line mate.
All right, so why don't we do this? I'll take it the first page down to Colorado, and then you jump in.
Sounds good.
All right, here we go. Look at that teamwork. Yeah, Ked, take some notes. All right, starting us off out west, Anaheim signed Radko Gudas to a 3-year, $4 million AAV, and Alex Killorn for 4 years at $6.25 million to get some veteran leadership with the youngsters out there. I don't know. I like the Gudas deal. I think that's an overpay for Killorn personally.
I agree. I am also a little bit upset about the Gudas signing. I was hoping, for those that are listening, to me for the first time, I'm a Stars guy down here in Dallas, so I wanted Gudas. But yeah, good signing for them. But I agree, Killorn, that's a little much. I don't want to say he's on the backside of his career, but it's a bold move.
Yeah, I mean, they have money to spend. They don't have any cap issues.
Right.
And he is, I mean, he's a, cup champ. So he's going to walk in with those rings, maybe get Zegras and Troy Terry and all them to buy in on, we got to, what you got to do to be a professional. But I think the biggest play for them was Gudas as protection, if nothing else, because they get both.
Absolutely. Yeah, they do.
All right, Arizona signed Jason Zucker for 1 year at 5.3, Troy Stetcher for 1 year at 1.1, and Nick Bustad for 2 years at 2.1. Then the Yotes actually signed Alexander Kerfoot for 2 years at a 3.5 million AAV. Actually, these are all good, I think.
They're good signings, but at the end of the day, it's like, does it really matter?
Yeah. I heard today that we'll get to it as free agents that aren't signed, but apparently Matt Dumba's got some kind of link to Arizona, so they're hoping he ends up there.
Yep.
I don't know what his
well.
link is, and listen, every day that Austin Matthews doesn't sign, keep it going.
Yeah.
The hometown team here, the Boston Bruins, signed Milan Lucic for 1 year at $1 million, James Van Riemsdyk for 1 year, $1 million, and Kevin Shattenkirk for 1 year, $1 million. The Bruins then went out and added Morgan Geekie for 2 years at $2 million AAV, and Patrick Brown for 2 years at $800K AAV. They also re-upped RFA's Jacob Lauko, 2 years at $775, and Kyle Kaiser, goalie, for 1 year at $775. A lot of people are upset in Bruins land, and I'll go into it more in the Bruins section. They're up against the cap, and I'll go into it more later. But I think these filled some holes. At one point, they didn't have anyone signed. Lucic is ecstatic to be back, and yeah, all you fucking idiots that have been like, bring back Lucic. Well, you got him.
Well, there you go. You got Quasimodo back.
Yeah. And you got JVR about 5 years too late.
Yeah.
Buffalo, the Sabres signed Tyson Yost for 1 year at 2, Connor Clifton for 3 years at 3.3 AAV, and Eric Johnson for 1 year at 3.225. Again, another team. I think these were all hits.
I think they're a playoff team.
Yeah,
this season. I really do. I think they were on the cusp last year.
Yep.
They're young, they're fast, they're aggressive, but not stupid about being aggressive.
Yep.
I think these are good signings for them.
It's going to come down to their goaltending, and Devin Levi is going to be a legit number one. It's a tough jump, to go from a NCAA schedule to an NHL schedule.
Right.
He obviously can handle the pressure. We saw that last year in the end of the season run. Big moments, he steps up. He always has. It'll be interesting to see. I like this. I like these moves. I wish the Bruins could have kept Cliffy. He's tough. He hits, but he was exposed a little bit in the playoffs here too. So
right.
Yeah, I think these are good. Like we always say all the time, like the NHL is better when Buffalo is relevant.
I agree.
Poor Jenks. Calgary.
Yeah, here we go.
Signed Dryden Hunt for 2 years at $775, two-way contract, and Jordan Osterley for 1 year at $925.
What are we doing here?
Well,
what
Dryden
are we
Hunt
doing?
is the only two-way contract that's mentioned in this document, just because he's up and down so much the last few years. Everybody else I kind of left off on the two ways. I don't know what Calgary's game plan is. I really don't.
I don't think they have one. I think so many of their team has just decided to jump ship because they don't want to be a part of a rebuild that they did not think was going to happen.
I think they're
That the-
scrambling.
they're just ready to move on and get back. And let's face facts. You know, you're in Canada. You're competing against all of the other Canadian markets: Toronto, Montreal, who's on the rise a little bit, Ottawa, who's also on the rise. All of them,
Edmonton right there,
with the exception of Vancouver. I wouldn't want to play there. I'd want to get out. I would want to go down to the U.S. to a market that's going to compete and that you have confidence that will compete. Because I don't think anyone in that locker room right now, with the new head coach and everything, has any confidence that that team's going to compete.
I just wonder if it's like if the players bailing, if they're doing whatever they can, and they're like, just give us a new stadium, and like there's a leverage play here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
agree.
know. I just feel bad for Jerome. Carolina. Oh boy, Carolina's gonna be a fucking problem. Carolina signed Dmitry Orlov for 2 years at 7.75. Re-up Freddie Anderson for 2 years at 3.4. Antti Ranta for 1 year at 1.5. Signed their RFA Dylan Coughlin for 1 year at 850. And then the Canes also went out and got Jesper Fast for 2 years at 2.1 and Michael Bunting for 3 years at 4.5. And they are also one of the remaining 3 teams linked to Erik Karlsson.
You know, they make a lot of moves. They make a lot of noise throughout the regular season and sometimes into the playoffs. They're always one of the top 5 to 10 teams in Stanley Cup odds. I don't know what's missing.
Well, for everyone that says what's missing with them is the superstar scorer, right? And that was supposed to be Max Pacioretty, who got hurt and now is gone.
Right.
So, I mean, is Jesper Fast going to turn into that?
I don't know. I don't know. If they can kind of mimic the play style of Seattle. And I think we kind of talked about this at one point. It's just a team of second liners.
Yeah.
Top to bottom. If they can kind of mimic that to a degree from the offensive front, where you just have 4 lines of all second line guys, then I think that kind of pushes them to that upper echelon, maybe Final Four going into the playoffs next year.
Yeah, I could see that. I just can't stand them, and
I can't either.
Orlov's a good player. I think they overpaid for him.
Well, he was arguably the best defensive free agent, if I'm correct, or what was in some people's brackets the best guy in his position on free agency.
So Orlov for 7.7 or Gudis for 4. I'd take Gudis for 4.
Yeah, I mean, for the price, you can't,
because they're both bottom 4 pair. You know, and they're not top pair. I don't know. I listen. I hope it works out and Carolina doesn't make the playoffs because I can't.
Same.
Chicago did all their free agency at the draft, but then they also went out and signed Corey Perry for 1 year, $4 million, and Ryan Donato for 2 years at $2 million. Both good signings, I think.
Yeah, I was interested to see Perry actually sign with them. His rights were traded over from Tampa to Chicago, so I was extremely surprised that he actually did sign because, even with Bedard, I don't think they're going to make a lot of noise outside of their top lines. They did get better. They got better with Bedard. We haven't seen anything, so nothing's proven, but they did get better as a team with Bedard, and it's just an interesting signing for Corey Perry. Maybe he just wanted to go back and play again for an original 6 team. I don't know.
Well, I wonder too if Corey Perry looks at it and goes, I might get second line minutes.
That's true. Yeah.
He's going to be on power play 1. He's going to be in front of the net. He's going to get much more ice time. And I think that was the same thing with Nick Foligno when he signed. He was like, well, I'm going to play. Foligno may be on the 3rd line. Corey Perry may be on the 2nd line with some spotting in on the top line. And I personally love Corey Perry's game. I always have. I mean, I took a break from rooting for him when he was on the Lightning, but I've always liked his game and the way he agitates, and he will stick his nose in there and stick up for Bedard, as will Foligno.
Maybe that's what Chicago said. They were like, we're going to give you $4 million for a year of your work. We just need you to make sure that Bedard doesn't get bullied.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh.
and we're going to give you, 18 minutes a game, 18 to 20 minutes a game. So go get him. And
Yep.
Ryan Donato didn't work out here in Boston, but he was playing very well in Seattle, I thought.
Yeah, I agree. I think, again, one of those second line guys that just
Yep.
fit in nicely with their scheme. So we'll see. We'll see what Chicago has in store with Donato. I'm just there's a lot of question marks with that franchise, even with Bedard. So
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Colorado re-signed Bowen Byram for 2 years at 3.85. Jack Johnson for 1 year at 775, and Andrew Cogliano for 1 year at 825. The Avalanche also added Miles Wood for 6 years at 2.5 AAV.
it's a pretty team friendly deal.
Yeah, Miles Wood wanted to go there, is what that says to me. And
Absolutely.
he's a fucking prick. Good Lord, is he a prick?
And he and McKinnon played together in juniors, correct? And they went on a tear. So I'm sure McKinnon, with his lack of carbs and yelling at people for eating pasta, probably went up to the management and said, "Hey, if this guy's available, put him on this team and we'll wreak some havoc."
I think there were a lot of teams that had Miles Wood as that. They were like, let's get him. And I think if it depends on the teams, right? But Colorado would be a good team to go to. If you were picking.
Absolutely. And I think Vegas still have Vegas still has Colorado as a top choice for the Stanley Cup going into the next season. So there's something in the water in Colorado, probably weed, but
so Columbus didn't do anything. We'll get to their coaching a little later, and there's some of their other moves. But excuse me, for free agent frenzy, they didn't do anything, and we didn't plan this. But Fink, take over, buddy, with your team.
Okay, well, my hometown, Dallas Stars traded for Colin Miller to the New Jersey Devils for a 2025 fifth-round pick and signed Craig Smith for 1 year at $1 million. Craig Smith is a beautiful man. I'm not ashamed to say it. Someone was like, you better watch out for him. He's going to tear that city apart because of his eyes. Stars also signed Joel Hanley for 2 years at $787,000 KAAV. That was a really good signing because he doesn't get a lot of recognition, even though he should, because he was in and out of the lineup as a healthy scratch all season long, never sent down. So his is a one-way for sure. But he also took a lot less money to be here for this 2-year contract. So that's the kind of guy that you want in the locker room, regardless. If he's willing to take a pay cut just to stay here, that's the kind of guy you want. Sam Steele, good player, good solid bottom defenseman. Sam Steele for 1 year at $850,000, and Matt Duchene, country music singer Matt Duchene, for 1 year at $3 million. And this is not me saying this because I am a Stars fan. I have my NHL hat on, so I'm just I hope everyone has fun fan right now. But some are saying that the Duchene contract is probably the best bargain for all of the free agent signings there on that first day. Interesting that his name popped up with Dallas. I think a lot of people wanted Domi back, which we'll get to Domi here in a little bit, but it'll be very interesting to have a guy like Matt Duchene and his personality and a guy like Ryan Suter and his personality in the same locker room, because if they lose more than one game in a row, the woe is me train is going to be parking itself at the American Airlines Center in their locker room, because those guys, from what I've heard, are absolutely atrocious in a locker room. They are poisonous.
Well, you still have the hope that they buy out Suter, although it doesn't look like it.
No,
they're not gonna be able to trade him unless they eat salary.
They're gonna have to if it comes to that.
But I personally, I'd take Duchene over Domi all day and twice on Sunday.
And the best thing for Stars fans regarding Duchene is Duchene lit us up in every game. I think he scored more points and more goals against the Stars than any other franchise in the NHL. So scratching that off the board, having one less guy, because he was in our division in Nashville, was just creeping around. It's good to have him on our team. And if Stars fans don't chant douche every time he touches the ice in an endearing way, of course, now that he's a Dallas Star, what's this all been about?
When we get to the Bruins and Rangers, I updated the sheet to say Stars, so you can go into more there.
Thank you. Well, then we'll go ahead and move on. The Red Wings signed Justin Hall for 3 years at $3.4 million, and James Reimer for 1 year at $1.5 million. The Wings also signed Alex Lyon for 2 years at $900,000. Daniel Sprong, another 1 year at $2 million. Shane Gostisbehere, 1 year at $4.13 million. Christian Fisher at 1 year for $1.25, and JT Compher, 5 years, $5.1 million AAV. Are we seeing another version of the Yzer plan right in front of our eyes?
He gets the guys that they are going to be a bunch, like Elliot Friedman said about you got to have a bunch of pricks, and they are shaping up that way. And I got to be honest with you, one of the best signings in my mind, low key, of this whole NHL free agency might be Alex Lyon for 2 years at $900K. I mean, if he can re-find his confidence in game, I mean, look out.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's an excellent, excellent player.
Detroit made a little noise last year, but kind of petered out midway towards the end of the season. So, I am not a Detroit fan. As a Dallas fan, it's kind of a one of those like rivalries in your head: Detroit, yep. Dallas, Colorado, things like that. When Detroit's good, it's good for the league.
Yeah,
they're this might get me some hate. I'm not a Cowboys fan. Let me go ahead and preface it now. But that logo, that history, it's looked at like the Dallas Cowboys, the New York Yankees, those teams that everyone looks at on them. They look at and they go, I know what that is. I know that logo. But anyway, if they're good, it's good for the league. Moving on
the other thing that Yzerman is doing is he is getting guys that have his mindset. Yzerman's one of those guys that is ultra competitive, hates to lose more than he likes to win, and everybody he's bringing in is that same boat. And he, like I said, he's building a team of mini Stevie Y's.
Yeah, that's a good Shoresy quote too, by the way. I like that you dropped that in there. Moving on to Edmonton, they extended Matthias Janmark, who, by the way, I've always said this, looks like a human Muppet, for 1 year, $1 million. Added Connor Brown, 1 year at $4 million. The Oilers also added Lane Peterson for 2 years at $775,000. Ben Gleason, former Dallas Stars legend, 2 years, $775,000, two-way first year. And Drake, I'm going to get railed for this one, Caguala, for 2 years at $775,000.
I'm gonna let you drown on that one.
That's fine.
I think you're close, but I mean, Edmonton added some defensive depth. They added some grit, but they believe in Stuart Skinner.
I was gonna say goaltending. I mean,
they believe Stuart Skinner was third for the Calder, but
we'll see. Yeah. I mean, that's been kind of the monkey on the back for that.
I heard an interview. I don't remember where it was. Probably 32 Thoughts. Oh, and by the way, I'll get to that in a second. And they were saying how McDavid was so angry still at the award show that they're like, he's going to hit another level next year, which will be amazing if he can do it.
It'll be even more amazing when his team peters out in the second round.
I know. It's
the same thing.
I mentioned 32 Thoughts. I would like to point out of all these hockey podcasts that are taking the summers off, the Morning Skate will still be here every week, providing the content you've come to know and love. Just want to put that out there.
That's a good shout out. Even the podcast that I run down here, Wada Hockey, I have to shout it out. We took a month off. We had to it's just, we support all these teams that, make it deep into the playoffs. It's just exhausting. Florida signed Nico Mikkola, 3 years, $2.5 million, and Mike Riley for 1 year at $1 million. The Panthers also added Oliver Ekman-Larsson for 1 year at $2.25 million. Rasmus Asplund, 1 year. Evan Rodriguez for 4 years at $3 million AAV, and Dmitry Kulikov for 1 year at $1 million. The Panthers also traded Anthony Duclair 1 more year at $2.5 million to San Jose for Steven Lorentz, 1 more year at $1 million, and a 2025 fifth-round pick. Florida had a historic run. Obviously, your guys fell victim to part of that historic run, but I don't know. I don't know if these moves are going to be the moves that
The Duclair one was surprising to me because I think he's a hell of a player.
He is, and I think he's extremely underrated.
Oh, 100%. I agree with you there. I don't know.
I don't know if that was like a cap dump because it wasn't that big of a cap hit,
they
but
only saved like $1 million.
I don't know. They've got to have something more at play there.
Yeah, or maybe there was a conflict personality thing. Who knows? But like Mike Riley couldn't crack the top 6 in Boston. Oliver Ekman-Larsson could barely crack the top 6 in Van.
Yep.
Right.
Which is
horrible.
Dangerous to even say.
Yeah. Mikola's a good player. I feel like it's not. I don't see a clear direction, right?
Right.
But I don't follow the Panthers as intently as like our Florida writer William, Will. But it doesn't on paper. A lot of these moves don't make sense to me because Radko Gudas and as much as Ked hates Mark Stahl, the two of them leaving to replace by Mike Riley and Oliver Ekman-Larsson is not bringing the same gravitas to the ice.
No, doesn't move the needle at all.
No.
It'll be interesting to see what the Panthers do this next season. I wouldn't be surprised if they're moving and shaking towards the trade deadline. But
that's
LA Kings signed Cam Talbot for 1 year, Trevor Lewis for 1 year at $775,000, and Andreas England for 2 years at $1 million. The Kings also brought back Anze Kopitar. This was today.
Yeah,
this is damn near breaking news for everybody, even though they're probably going to hear it tomorrow or the next day. 2 years at $7 million. The tinted visor sticks around El Capitan himself. Again, the Kings didn't really do anything in free agency to make me go, oh, they're a threat. They're really bumped up. I mean, you kept Kopitar. I don't think anyone's surprised by that.
That's a big cap hit for Kopitar.
Yeah.
I like him, but
I do like the short term though. It's only for 2 years. I think they basically are saying, we're going to give you one more shot to really kind of take us to the promised land again. If it doesn't work, we're going to move on from it. So,
or maybe he said to them, I just want to go 2 more years. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'll finish up my reading on Minnesota because they fell victim to the Stars, and for some reason they're still bitter about it. They traded a 2024 7th round draft pick for Pat Maroon, 1 year remaining at $800,000, and Maxim Kakovic, restricted free agent at the end of the season for $867,000. Minnesota's they're battling some cap stuff right now, obviously with the buyouts of Parise and Suter. They're kind of their backs are against the wall. Billy Guerin is one of my favorite people in hockey, even though he is with the Wild. He's a great all around guy. I just don't know if they can do much right now. They got
Maroon to replace Revo and Maroon. I mean, listen, the guy wins, right? So
he does. He
can bring that, And everybody says he's great in the locker room. This is why I hate hearing the interviews of guys I don't like. Because then I'm like, oh, he seems like a good guy, but I still can't stand him. Yeah. So I just don't listen to interviews of guys I don't like anymore.
Just keep the facade.
Because of Pat Maroon. Yeah. I want to keep my hate alive.
Yeah, I blame the Spit and Chicklets podcast for a lot of players that I hate on the ice. And I'm just like, damn it, he's such a nice, genuine guy.
Yeah.
But Minnesota, they're also going to lose Dumba. Dumba's not going to come back. I think Aaron's already said it's just not in the works. Like, we don't have the money for it. So Minnesota effectively got worse, in my opinion. I think so as well. You lost Reeves, which is just a huge locker room guy. He's an on ice presence. He's not a good hockey player. He's not, in my opinion. He's just a guy that imposes his will and he shakes things up on the ice enough to where it affects the people around him on his and the other team. So
I will say I heard a TSN hit with Reeves, and he was saying, and this is, I think, important because we'll get to him. He ended up in Toronto, but he was saying how one of his things that he does is he makes sure that he's like a click buster for teams. And he's like, I don't care who you are. If the boys are going out, we're all going out. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, that might be really what Toronto needs.
Maybe, because apparently there's some turmoil in that locker room, but we'll get to that in a second. Yeah. But I'm going to hand it off to you. Take it over with Montreal.
Oh, you want me to take it? All right. So
I'll take it over for a little bit.
Montreal traded Joel Edmondson, retaining 50%, retaining 50% of his salary to Washington for a 2024 third and a 7th, and re-upped RFA Raphael Harvey Petard for 2 years at 1.1. Again, Montreal, I don't really know what they're doing. They signed Caulfield to a big ticket.
Yep.
Martin St. Louis seems to have his finger on the pulse. He knows way more about hockey than me, but from an outside looking in, I don't understand.
Yeah, if I'm a Montreal fan on the beginning of free agency and I look at this, I'm not excited. This doesn't get me hyped for the next season whatsoever.
Exactly. Nashville. Talk about getting hyped for the next season. Holy shit! If you're a Preds fan, buckle up. They signed Gustav Nyquist for 2 years at 3.185, Jasper Weatherby for 1 year at 7.75, and Ryan O'Reilly, the Factor, for 4 years at 4.5. The Preds also re-upped RFA Alexandra Carrier for 1 year at 2.5 and signed big boy Luke Shen for 3 years at 2.75 and then added Cody Glass for 2 years at 2.5.
Tell me you were pissed off at the way last season went without telling me you were pissed off at the way the last season went.
Yeah, 100%. I found out today listening to, I think it was 32 Thoughts, that Ryan O'Reilly's, I think his older brother lives in the Nashville area. So
it's a popular place.
Yeah. Oh, dude, from what I saw at the draft and the awards, we should, if we're gonna have a morning skate meetup, we should have it in fucking Nashville.
I agree. And I'm not a big country music fan. I think I was lied to about where I was born, and I'd still have a blast. I wouldn't even care.
It's live music everywhere, which is always better. Number one. And if I'm not a country music fan, I tell you what I am a fan of, and that's alcohol. So
they got a lot.
Like there's plenty.
Is it Tootsie's that Bill Guerin gave a shout out to, the bar
Tootsies
there in Nashville?
Tootsies?
I think it's Tootsie's. He said Tootsie's is keeping everybody hydrated.
Yeah. How much of a tab was that for him?
Oh God.
The Devils, New Jersey, added Nathan Bashian for 2 years at 1.35 and Michael McLeod for 1 year at 1.4.
I mean, do they keep the momentum from last year? Is really the question.
Who are they linked to that I heard today? And I was like, oh, that's a difference maker.
Not Tarasenko.
Yeah, Tarasenko.
I was going to say, I know he's been kind of rumored to a couple of teams. He just changed his agent, which really doesn't matter unless you're John Klingberg and your former agent talks you out of a massive contract and now you're getting bounced around for 1 year deals, but that's neither here nor there.
New Jersey, I think the best move New Jersey did was they traded Mackenzie Blackwood. To be perfectly honest.
Agreed.
The Islanders signed Pierre Engvall. Want to hear something funny? So you and I talked. I was like, listen, the way I find out everything is I put up TSN and I just refresh the tracker, right?
Yep.
Fucking Islanders with Lou. They don't release their fucking information. You have to dig. Like Cap Friendly was like a day behind.
Mm-hmm.
It was amazing how hard it is to find out the term and numbers for these guys. Anyway, so they signed Pierre Engvall for 7 years at $3 million. Julien Gauthier for 2 years at 7.75. Scott Mayfield for 7 years at 3.5. Semyon Varlamov for 4 years at 2.75. And Ilya Sorokin for 8 years at 8.25. I will say this. Outside of Sorokin, everybody took less to stay on the island.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
To me. And
they love it. They love it there.
I don't get it. I you know what? No offense, because I'm from the South. I've only visited, Manhattan when I went up to New York. So I don't know what the culture is. I'm sure it's fantastic, but New York Islanders, and this is probably going to get me a lot of heat. They just always strike me as a little brother.
Yeah, I think they play into that for one. I think they use that as motivation. I also think that it becomes like a very, like you hear like retired players talk about the community, and they have that gorgeous new building.
They do, yeah.
So it's the quality of life, and they all seem to buy in. They love it there. So,
and I would love to visit. I'd love to visit that area.
I'd love to go to a game, see that new ring.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. But I will say the one downside of the Islander style of play, and I am going to steal this a little bit from Paul Bissonnette, Biz Nasty. They are such a boring team offensively, just absolutely molasses.
Barzal loves it there, and talk about stifling that kid's creativity, and he's still there.
He wants to stay, but good for them.
Speaking of shitbag teams, Ked's New York Rangers, because
he's not
right
here
now
to defend himself.
When he hears this, he's gonna be so mad at me. Actually, they did it. I thought they made some great moves. They signed Blake Wheeler for 1 year at $800K, Jonathan Quick for 1 year at $825K. The Rangers then added Tyler Pitlick for 1 year at $787, Eric Gustafson for 1 year at $825, and Nick Bodino for 1 year at $800K. You talked about earlier, tell me you were pissed at last season without saying so. Here you go. Tell me you needed some fucking veteran leadership without saying, hey, our vets are fucking panty wastes.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Ked goes on, but if Mika Zibanejad and Chris Kreider are your salty veterans, you're not fucking winning anything.
No, because Zibanejad's too worried about whatever set he's going to play at Lollapalooza. So
you know what? If Ked was having a better week, I would have bombed the fuck out of him with videos of Mika dancing at the DJ. Yeah.
You know what? You know what New York's first or their free agency reminds me of, and this is going to be for the kids. It's like when you watch a TikTok and someone says, "I'm going to cook a gourmet meal by going to the Dollar Tree." These are just all bargain deals,
dude. I'll tell you what, I would have taken Blake Wheeler on the Bruins. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? We'll see how it works out for them.
Yeah.
You know, the Rangers are another team like the Red Wings. When they're playing well, it's better for the league. And I'm undecided on these moves because I don't know if it's going to really push them to the next level. So
yeah, that's fair. But unlike what we talked about with Detroit, they still got Igor in net. So
they do have Igor in net.
Now they got Quick as a backup.
Yep, I think that is a deadly 1-2.
Yeah,
and coming from the Star standpoint, where Scott Wedgwood was our backup and was hurt for quite a while, and then you saw Jake Ottinger get exposed because he played upwards of almost 90 some odd games. You know, goalies get tired, and it shows.
Speaking of Wedgwood, apparently I followed him on Instagram because I automatically now follow him on Thread. He is quite active on. Is it Thread or Threads?
Tomato.
All right,
I think everyone knows what you're talking about.
All right, you want to
go? Yeah. So Ottawa, moving on, signed Eric Brandstrom to a 1 year, $2 million deal. Jacob Bernard Docker for 2 years at $805,000, and Eunice Carpasalo, 5 years, $20 million, $4 million AAV. The Sens also signed Eric Brandstrom to a 1 year, $2 million deal. Travis Hamonic, 2 years, 1.1. Greg Pallon, 1 year at $775,000, and Zach McEwen, 3 years at $775,000 AAV. Ottawa's just like one of those teams where they're right there. They're right there.
I'm telling you, these signings, I'll have Ottawa in the playoffs.
I think, you know what, I'm going to go with that too. I think they've got a good
fucking good goalie.
And you know what? You know, look at who were we just talking about? Look at Edmonton. You know, it comes down to goaltending. And if you've got a hot goalie and look at Florida.
I think that's a good team deal. $4 million.
Yeah, that's a great deal.
I mean, top 10 goalie in the NHL.
I mean, look at Florida and their historic run in the playoffs in Bobrovsky. True back to form. You know, without him, we're not talking about that. We're talking about a completely different team in the finals. So but yeah, moving on to the garbage fire that is the Philadelphia Flyers. They signed Ryan Poehling, 1 year, 1.4. Fan favorite Mark Stahl, 1 year, 1.1 million, and Garnet Hathaway, 2 years, 2.38 million. The Flyers also came to terms with restricted free agents Ronnie Attard, 2 years, 850,000, and Victor Met, 1 year, 775,000 on a two-way deal.
I do like Met. I meant, is it Met? I do like the way he plays, though. Yeah, Garnet Hathaway. Listen, I loved him here. I hated him in Washington because I would have loved him here longer in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
But what a fucking perfect fit for the Flyers.
Yeah, exactly. And there was some more Flyers news. I don't know. I haven't scrolled all the way down, but did we mention D'Angelo? Because apparently the trade is being held up by by whatever agreement. But I think July 9th, the trade will go through and D'Angelo will be going to, oh my gosh, I don't want to say Carolina. Back to Carolina, I believe.
Huh, interesting.
So Carolina with a little bit more defense. Yeah, so
What's coming? Is that the with the St. Louis? Is that did they figure out something with Krug? Was that?
I don't think so because Kevin Hayes officially was traded to the Blues. So
Yep.
I know that there was talk about that being a 3-team deal or something along those lines. So
Krug blocked it. He wouldn't go. He wouldn't go to the. I mean, I don't blame him. He wouldn't go to the Flyers.
yeah, I don't blame anyone for not wanting to go to the Flyers. God,
Well, Krug's not a Tortorella guy.
no.
He's not that kind of player.
God
No.
bless Kevin Hayes for just putting up with it as long as he did. But yeah, so we'll see. Pittsburgh, moving on, received a 2023 third round, 91st overall, and 2024 seventh round draft pick, and sent the 2023 third round pick to the New York Rangers for the 90th overall.
So they did this deal to move up one spot. I don't know who they drafted, but I want to track it and
see which guy.
Like I want to see the parts of that deal, like the players, and see like if that's was such a boner by the Rangers or not.
TBD. Maybe they got Dubust.
Yeah, maybe.
The Pens also signed Matt Nieto, 2 years, 900,000 AAV. Lars Eller, 2 years at 2.45. Will Butcher at 1 year for $775,000. Noel Achari, 3 years, 2 million AAV. Ryan Graves, 6 years, 4.5 million. And Tristan Yari, no surprise there because he was really the only goalie left. 5 years at 5.38 million. Cool. I mean, it's like they did a lot without doing anything at all.
Yeah, I like these signings. I love Achari, and he's a Dubas guy. Dubas loves him. He's bringing him everywhere. That Tristan Jarry for 5 years at over 5, I think that's a bad deal for the. I think
he fleeced. I think he fleeced him a little bit.
I mean, good for him. You know, I always like to see the guys get their bag, like in a root for a millionaire or a billionaire, right? But I don't know if Tristan Jarry is the answer for the Penguins in that. They also got Riley Smith from that deal too, who's a top 6 guy for the from Vegas prior to this. But
yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with the Dubas era in Pittsburgh year 1. But again,
still no GM named.
No, just a lot of noise without a lot of movement. San Jose signed Giovanni Smith to a 2-year, $800,000 deal. Mackenzie Blackwood, your favorite from New Jersey, for 2 years at $2.35 million. And the Sharks also signed Kyle Burrows for 3 years at $1.1 million. I mean, Carlson's on his way out. He wants a trade. I don't really. What are we doing here, San Jose? You got great jerseys. I love, honest to goodness, probably the best, in my opinion, some of the best uniforms in the NHL. I love the color pattern. The Sharks logo is awesome, but outside of that, there's really not much going for this team right now.
Mike Greer, the GM, has come out and said that the Sharks are not eating 50% of Carlson's salary. They had a deal in place. Was it Toronto? It might have been Toronto. A deal like in agreement, I guess, or whatever. But the Sharks had to retain like 80% to make it work. Yeah. So Greer wants to retain like 20% max. Everybody else is saying it's got to be like 50 or 60. So something's got to give if they really want to move him.
I mean, that's, in my opinion, the biggest story going into the remainder of the offseason is where does he land? Because he does hold so much weight.
Yeah, Pittsburgh, New Jersey, and I forget who the other. Didn't we? I think
I've heard Carolina, but I think they're officially
him
out.
And Brent Burns, though, it's that whole they couldn't coexist before.
Yeah, and this is something that I've kind of told a couple of Stars fans. You get so mad at guys like, prime example, John Klingberg. He's an offensive defenseman that makes defensive mistakes because he is an offensive-minded defenseman. Carlson is not a good defenseman.
Thank God.
As a defenseman, he's not good.
No.
But he has the stats from the blue line with his offensive prowess to cover up the gaping holes in his game on the backside. And so, from a Star standpoint, I never wanted him because you've got he automatically gets shifted to the first line with Miro Heiskanen. Miro Heiskanen has had to play with those guys and be that like defensive juggernaut, even though he's got good offensive but he's had to be that defensive guy because he's always played with someone that can control their side.
He plays defense like a fourth line winger.
Yeah.
That has, but he's like a power play. He's on your number one power play.
Yeah.
I can't fucking stand him. I can't stand the fact that he won the Norris. But
I think if it would be hilariously wild and fun to see if a team that got him said, yeah, we're good on defense. We're moving you up to forward where you belong. You've belonged as a forward since you got here in the league.
Can you imagine? And then he wins the Hart.
Yeah, and then we're all mad again. Moving on to the Kraken, they added Brian Dumoulin, 2 years at 3.15, and Kyler Yamamoto got bounced around a couple teams and ended up in Seattle at 1 year for $1.5 million. Again, they're just a team of second liners that all happen to mesh and play extremely fast. I think they're gonna be a pest for a while.
I think these two guys fit in with that style of play perfectly.
Yep.
And I think they're really going to play up the Yamamoto going home angle of it, which good for him.
Yeah, and I think Yamamoto might have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder because he did get, kind of tossed around. He got bought out almost immediately from getting traded. And players don't forget that. Right. And so I think he's going to play with a bit of a chip on his shoulder, as all the Kraken do, as we saw throughout the regular season and into the playoffs.
As Bobby Boucher would say, tackle and fuel.
Tackling a few. I got to tackle a few. Moving on to the St. Louis Blues. Wow, what a day. Mackenzie McCarron, McEachran. He's a Blue. I don't care. 2 years, $775,000. Sorry, Preston. Wow, St. Louis, you really outdid yourselves this time.
Yeah. The only team they did better than was Columbus.
Yeah. Tampa Bay signed Connor Sheary to a 3-year, $2 million deal. Josh Archibald, 2-year, $800,000. The Lightning also signed Luke Glendening. God, I'm going to miss him in the faceoff circle. 2 years at $800,000. Great player. Calvin DeHaan, 1 year at $775,000, and Jonas Johansson for 2 years at $775,000. Good signings all around. I really.
DeHaan's a prick, and fuck Connor Sheary. Like, you go from one team I hate to another team I hate. Like. And I wish that he was on my team. Like, I love the way he plays, but what a fucking prick.
I mean, I'm not going to argue that whatsoever. Anyone that's on Tampa Bay is an automatic prick. And that hurts me to say with Luke Glendening, because I did love he was a bit of a liability. He's a fourth line center. He is getting to that point where I think his age is starting to show a little bit more. And I think, so but good luck to him there. Moving on to everyone's favorite, Toronto signed Ryan Reeves for 3 years at 1.35. 3 years. Yeah. John Klingberg, here's another 1 year deal for old Johnny Kling. 1 year at $4.15 million. The Leafs also added Tyler Bertuzzi for 1 year at $5.5. Max Domi, 1 year at $3 million, and Dylan Gambrell, 1 year at $775,000. Now, here's what I wanted to say about these guys.
Go ahead.
Apparently, and I'm sure you saw this report as well, whether it's true or not, Ryan O'Reilly was given the exact same term and money.
It's going to be in the NHL in the news section.
Okay. Yeah. All right, cool. Then I'll hold off, but there's something going on in that locker room that we don't know. And with Dubas dipping and then Spezza following him right out the door, I think there's something more at play that we don't know. And we may never know, but they are suffering because of it. So
I love Reeves as a person. Yeah. I think he's great. I love when he's like, "Oh, interview Tarps off."
He's a poster boy for the league that we need.
Vibe. I love everything about him. That being said, what is he going to help you with in the playoffs?
And dare I say, because they may have. We'll get to it in a second, but there may be some massive turmoil going on with that locker room, with that front office. We might be looking at one of the most fun stories going into next season is them just being an absolute dumpster fire.
I mean, what did they need? They needed goaltending and defense. What did they add? They added Reeves, Klingberg, who's not going to
Again,
fix your defensive woes.
yep,
They added Bertuzzi, who I like, but also kind of wore out his welcome in Detroit. I mean, he
a
would have
little
been.
bit.
I would have loved him here, but no one. I think his agent fucked him. I don't think he read the market right for what he could have got because the Bruins, I think, offered him a 3-year deal. And Max Domi, I mean, he's one of the most overrated players in the league, in my opinion. But
He does. I will say, with his time in Dallas, he hustles his ass off.
yep,
So he does give you that spark that you might need throughout the season and into the playoffs. They're going to be a grittier team than I think Toronto's ever been or used to seeing over the last decade. They are going to be gritty. Bertuzzi and Domi on that team with Reeves backing them up.
Yep.
If they're all three on the ice at the same time, yikes. Like,
well, a couple things about these guys. So Bertuzzi might get minutes with Matthews, which good for Bertuzzi because he's going to fill the fucking net with pucks, and then he's going to sign some huge ticket when the cap goes up next year.
Yeah.
So good for Bertuzzi.
Yeah.
Max Domi, this is my bold prediction. Max Domi is going to buy into my dad played here and ran roughshod over the league, and he's going to get his fucking teeth knocked out by someone. It could be Lucic. You know, I mean, he's going to bite off more than he can chew because he's going to think he has the big balls. And whatever.
My only argument to that is he also will do that because he's got Reeves behind him.
Yeah, I think a guy like Lucic will fight either of them.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We'll round out the remaining teams, and then we'll jump into the UFAs that are still unsigned. Vancouver, whoopsie-doo, signed Teddy Bluger for 1 year at $1.9 million. Carson Soucy, 3 years at $3.25, and Ian Cole, 1 year at $3 million. I mean,
I like all three of these players.
They're good. They're good signings, but
it's not going to move the needle in Vancouver. It's not going to fix what ails them.
No, not at all. Stanley Cup champions, pains me to even say, Vegas Golden Knights re-signed Aiden Hill at 2 years at $9.8 million, $4.9 million AAV. Like you were saying, he just got a big ticket.
Yep.
You know, guy just won a Stanley Cup.
Good for him.
Yeah, good for him. You know, we'll see.
How's that asset management doing, San Jose?
Yeah, whoopsie doo.
Yep.
Washington signed Max Pacioretty, 1 year, $2 million. Martin, you're gonna have to help me with this one. Fairvey, 3 years at $2.67 million, and Matthew Phillips, 1 year, $775,000. You know, I want to see. I think the big story with Washington, obviously, is Ovechkin going to break Gretzky's record. Outside of that, I don't know if this team is really going to do a lot going into next season. They are aging still. Can Pacioretty
got to stay healthy?
Yep, and can Pacioretty stay healthy as well? I mean, you got
Pacioretty's betting on himself, right, with a 1 year deal.
Yeah,
and he's going to get power play time with Ovechkin, so that'll help him pile up points. I think Connor Sheary's a huge loss.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
As was Garnet Hathaway, as was Dmitry Orlov.
So, you know, you look at what they lost, you look at what they put back. You know, I don't think that they got better. So it might be a tough year for Caps fans.
And I feel so bad for them.
I know it's a shame. I do want to see Ovechkin break the record. I do want to see that. I think we kind of have to face facts. If he stays healthy, which he's on the Russian gas, he's going to stay healthy. Mm-hmm. Russian machine never breaks. So, but last but certainly least, Winnipeg Jets sign Vladislav Nemesnikov, 2 years, $2 million. Good for him, by the way, because he's been bounced around. Yeah. Laurent Brassard before 1 year, 1.75, and the Jets also re-upped their RFA. Dylan Sandberg, 2 years, $1.4 million.
Still no decision on Scheifele. Still no decision on Hellebuck.
Nope. And you know what? It couldn't happen to a better guy in Rick Bowness, who said, I don't want to coach anymore.
Right. Bowness, yeah.
I don't want to coach anymore. And then literally 2 months later signs a deal with Winnipeg. And they get bumped and blasted. And I couldn't be more happy for him to suffer defeat. But yeah, I don't think Winnipeg is going to be having a good time next season. You know, Hellebuck doesn't want to be there. He wants out, and if they don't
Wheeler's
get
gone, Scheifele I think is going to follow.
Yeah.
Scheifele's linked to the Bruins a little bit, which
yeah,
I wouldn't
so
hate.
there's going to be some moving and shaking with them. You know, if Hellebuck says he doesn't want to play and he's still on that team come beginning of the season, that's going to be a real interesting scenario because he's a gamer, but at the same time he wants to win, and I don't think he sees that the Jets are in a place where they can even sniff the Stanley Cup.
They have
So,
never recovered since Bufflin left.
nope. So, which he just kind of faded into the abyss, and
He
he's
goes,
just kind of
he wants to go fishing, and he plays in that what is it called? The beauty league. He shows up now and then. I would
We'll
love
see if
to interview Dustin Bufflin.
absolutely. We'll see if he shows up. The beauty league's supposed to be getting underway here in the next couple weeks, so that'll be interesting. But yeah, that's a wrap for all of the free agent signings as of today, July 6th, that we know of, unless Threads has broken a new one that we have not seen while we're recording this.
And then
I'm gonna let you. I'm
okay.
gonna let you take the top UFAs because I think it's gonna hurt your heart a little bit.
Yeah, the UFAs that are still out there: Patrice Bergeron, David Krejci, Thomas Nosek. I'm gonna put those three. I put those three at first because they're all Bruins.
Yep.
Krejci has been making some noise that he might go back to the Czech. I think they're going to end up signing Nosek. I think they're just kind of waiting for the dust to settle a little bit. And I hold out hope in my heart that one of the reasons Lucic is here is because Bergeron told him he'd be back. Beyond that, Patrick Kane, Vladimir Tarasenko, Matt Dumba, Thomas Tatar, Oscar Sundquist, Maxime Comtois, Paul Stastny, Phil Kessel, Dennis Gurianov, and Jonathan Taves, who may never play again, but
he may not.
Out there.
It's funny that I didn't even know he was a free agent until you said that because he had already left my mind.
It's a shame because I really like the way he plays. But you know what I find funny with this whole list? Everybody's kind of linked to somebody, right?
Except for Dennis Gurianov
and Kane.
Yeah, that's those hips.
Very quiet around Patrick Kane. Very quiet. And I'll tell you right now, I'd take Paul Stastny on the Bruins in a flash.
There's quite a few of these guys. I mean, even Phil Kessel to a degree, if he signs at like a league minimum, he's a great locker room presence. He's speaking from the Stars, if you got Duchesne and Suter in the same locker room, you got to balance that out. Bring in Phil Kessel, let him pound a couple Pepsis and swallow a couple hot dogs.
Duchesne. I find that interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah, that's something that we as Stars fans have found out more recently than we ever realized before. So
interesting. All right, NHL in the news, and I remember to play the music, so here we go. No mea culpa there. You want to do the NHL in the news, and I'll do the dump and change?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we were talking about before, Toronto could be in for a rough summer. First, Ryan O'Reilly decided to look elsewhere, even though Toronto had the term and money that he wanted. And then, Willie Nylander submitted his 10-team no-trade list. Well, contract talks are still ongoing. I think he's just putting his contract out of reach. He's trying to get that big ticket. We've said that a couple of times about some guys already. And I don't know if Toronto is willing to play ball. So
the Maple Leafs don't buy the whole, like the Sidney Crosby mentality, the Patrice Bergeron mentality, the Red Wings when Yzerman was there. We take less, so we all make more. That's not Toronto's mindset. And I think that might be the biggest issue in the locker room, that there's the big four and the other 19.
I mean, it's going to be interesting if he. I'd
love to see him leave.
I'm fascinated by this team. I am just fascinated. So yeah, sorry, Leafs fans, you might be in for a world of hurt for even longer. Great news on my front. Jimmy Nill wins the Jim Gregory GM of the Year award.
Well deserved.
He's so calm at the trade deadline because, everyone's barking down his door. Go get this guy. Go get this guy. We need this. We need that. He made a couple of moves. He brought in Max Domi, brought in Evgeny Dadonov, and, he's just signed a 2-year extension because he played extremely well.
His drafting
has been unreal. The 2017 draft with Ottinger, Robertson, and Heiskanen, like he just knows what to do. So
And
I think
when you go to the next one here, the reason that Don Sweeney does not win the GM of the year, and regardless of, I mean, yeah, he's doing great under his maneuverings with the cap and bringing in guys when they went all in, and that was an on ice failure, not an upstairs failure last year. But go ahead.
Yeah, the Bruins have drafted 27 players since 2018 draft, and only one has seen NHL ice time. Jacob Lauko.
That's it.
And that tells you something because I don't even know that name.
Yeah, so
So
I'm gonna spell this out for the listeners that we have. That is no bueno.
yeah, you know what is bueno? Taco Bell.
Yeah.
So is Taco Bueno. That's a South thing. But yeah, kudos to Jim Nill. He's I think there's still something cooking because we in Dallas have a lot of forwards because we added a lot of those guys, Sam Steele, Craig, and then Duchesne. You already have, and then we still have Delandria, who is an RFA, didn't go to arbitration, so they're likely going to work something out with him. But we need defense, yet we haven't made any defensive moves. So I think something's in the works. Maybe a Mason
Matt Grzelcyk would look great for you guys.
If you want Mason Marchment, by all means, take him. Beautiful eyes. Great start to the season. Nothing since. But yeah, that's the NHL in the news.
No, it's not. Keep going.
Oh, that's not. I thought we were going to have a retirement ceremony. Michael Stone, after 552 games played, 41, 104, and 145, 309 penalty minutes with Phoenix, Arizona, and Calgary over 12 seasons, hung him up at the age of 33. The Winnipeg native had his best seasons with Calgary. And Patrick Hornqvist, 901 games played, 264, 279, and 543 total. 466 penalty minutes with Nashville, Pittsburgh, and Florida over 15 seasons. Hangs them up at the age of 36, which makes me, I'm 36. So when someone says they're hanging them up, I wish I could hang him up. The Swedish native had his most success in Pittsburgh, where he won 2 Stanley Cups to go along with his World Championship gold.
So something funny about Hornqvist, when he got traded to Pittsburgh, he ended up on a line with Crosby. And in the 2005 draft, I just learned this today. In the 2005 draft, that Crosby was number 1. Hornqvist was the very last player picked.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
And 2-time Stanley Cup champion because
Isn't that awesome? Good for him.
That is great.
Yeah.
Moving on, Anaheim treating people right. Goalie coach Sardushan Maharaj, a.k.a. Sudsy, is currently being treated for pancreatic cancer and is hoping to make a full recovery. Sudsy has been with the Ducks for the last 6 seasons, and his contract was up prior to his diagnosis. The Ducks organization stepped up and told him that all of his medical care will be taken care of. So stick taps to Anaheim.
Yeah, stick taps to the Ducks.
On the flip side, John Gibson has requested a trade and says he will never play another game for the Ducks. After trading Gibson has proven difficult, he's backed off the statement. Now they're retracting.
It's so dumb. It is so dumb when players do this. Like, I understand Hellebuck in frustration, and Gibson probably was frustrated as well. But when you say, I am never playing for the Ducks, you have taken away every ability they have to work a deal.
Yeah.
So you're making it harder.
You, as a GM outside of Anaheim, looks at him and goes, he is a negative player. He has a bad attitude.
Well, I look at it as like, we can get him for like a 7th round pick. We don't have to do anything. He's not going to play there.
He's buckled Anaheim.
Hurts his market value.
We do have some calendar oddities. Jordan Tutu, who was born on 2-2.
Isn't that cool?
That is cool.
I love these things when these happen.
And I love Jordan Tutu. Absolutely love him.
Get off the tracks.
Yep. The last 2 people who scored a hat trick in the Stanley Cup clinching game were Mark Stone and Babe Dye, Toronto St. Pat's 1922. They were both born on the same day, May 13th. Okay, that one's cool. I had no idea. Even though, and I'm gonna throw you for a loop, and I hope you see this every time you look at Mark Stone forever. I'm sure you've seen Shrek, right?
Yeah.
He looks like Lord Farquaad.
Oh, he does.
And it's not a good look.
He does. I love Mark Stone. I really do. I don't know anything about him. I just love the way he plays.
You know who also loves Mark Stone? Jamie Benn. Moving on. Buffalo forward Jack Quinn is out for the next 6 months after he ruptured his Achilles working out. That sucks.
That sucks for a team on the upswing. You know,
And anytime you're actively trying to make yourself a better performer on the ice, and that's when you get hurt, that's just that's brutal.
luckily he's young, so that's the
he
thing
is.
working in his favor.
He'll be able to bounce back. The Columbus Blue Jackets did make a little bit of noise when they officially hired Mike Babcock as their new head coach. God, how does this guy keep getting jobs? Like, I just don't get it.
Although it just made me think of this. I saw today that Alain Vigneault has said he's done coaching.
I saw that too. Yeah, he's retiring. So maybe we'll see him on the TNT broadcast. A little more Columbus Blue Jackets news. Ohio sprinkled with a little Michigan mixed in. The Blue Jackets have 5 players that played at the University of Michigan Go Blue. Adam Fantinelli, Gavin Brindley, Kent Johnson, Nick Blankenberg, and Zach Orwinski, all Michigan Wolverines. I love that. I
think that's cool.
Fantilli,
I'm telling you right now, Fantilli's going to be a problem for the NHL this year.
He had
Did you see him hit Michigan in that development camp video?
He had a hell of a development camp.
And he wanted to be there. He wanted to go to Columbus.
Oh, you know what? Speaking of development camp, I want to throw out this fun little fact. I got to go to the Stars development camp for the last 2 days. And guess who?
Is it open to the public too, or
it is open to the public?
Yeah.
Got to talk with Logan Stankoven, one of our top prospects, which was really cool. But the coolest thing that I noticed is there was a kid skating around, last name Nurse. I don't know if you know this, but Sarah Nurse has siblings, and one of them is Isaac Nurse, and he was part of the Stars developmental camp. And I thought it was really. What's that?
How old is he?
He's 19.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was curious to see if he had any interviews post camp, because I think it might have been one of the few times and only times that someone gets up to the mic and says, hey, how's your sister doing? Like,
listen, I would love to interview her, and if I was a not married guy, I would love to have dinner with her.
Yeah,
she is a big glass of all right in my book.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't know if we have anything on this on the run sheet, but man, we should do a side episode just about the bullshit that's going on with women's hockey right now.
Oh, I have it in my northeastern part a little bit, very, very superficial, but it's.
We could honestly drag on for a long time for that one.
It could be good, but I'm afraid it's going to be bad.
Yeah. So Winnipeg/Atlanta, it is officially over. When Blake Wheeler departed from the New York Rangers, he was the last player on the roster that suited up for those fantastic uniforms and the Thrashers. So,
I saw something with Danny Heatley's stats from his years at the Thrashers. Mm-hmm. I forgot how fucking filthy he is, because you think of him as like an internet wise ass, but unbelievable player.
He was dominant.
Yeah.
Pat Maroon is a champion once again, as the newly acquired Wild player scored the OT game winner in the roller hockey national championship. Imagine being on a pro roller hockey team and you look over and you see a guy like Pat Maroon.
Yeah.
Like, really?
You know what? He looks the same as he does in ice. The play developed. The kid came flying into the zone, and I'm like, that's not fucking Pat Maroon. And then it was a scrum, and Pat Maroon tucked it over the goalie.
Yeah, you could hear him panting on his way in. Lastly, the Vegas Golden Knights are getting the Stanley Cup engraved prior to the player days with the cup. This is the first team to do so and could be the start of a new tradition.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I mean, I'm not a Vegas fan whatsoever. I think that fan base has just been gifted just some of the most fun hockey since their introduction. So I can't really sympathize with anything with them. But yeah, that is a cool tradition. I think that'd be really cool to kind of see that and then see the spaces coming up next to it.
Well, I think it would be cool too if you were a player to take like wax paper and do like a frame that. That'd be neat.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
I guess we're moving on to dump and change.
Play the music, Brownie. Continue to play the music. God, man, this is why Ked has 2 screens going.
I've got a big screen.
I totally cut you off.
No, it's okay. I was just saying that's why I said dump and change as slow as I could.
And you're like, I got a big cutoff. So, ladies, all right, jump and change. Governor J.B. Pritzker of Illinois passed a ban on bans. The new law prohibits book bans in the state's public schools and libraries. I feel like that's just a good fuck you as a governor.
Yeah, like a little double negative to throw in your face.
Exactly. USA brought home the Lacrosse World Championships over Canada 10-7 with Brennan O'Neill as the MVP. He had 5 goals in the gold medal game, and I think, if I remember correctly, because I don't have it written down, I think he had 15 and 7 over the tournament. So,
shout out to our boys on the morning skate too with the Ledger. They've been trying to run that up. So shout out to them.
Yeah, they should reach out to some of those Team Jamaica guys. There was a high school player playing for Team Jamaica, and they had one attackman. A goalie came out of net, and the defenseman gave him like a buddy pass up high, and their attackman destroyed this goalie. I don't remember who they were playing against, but what a great hit. On July 1st, Bobby Bonilla of the New York Mets received his annual $1.193 million for the 13th year in a row. The Mets have so far paid him $15.5 million to not play the 2000 season. There is another 12 years and $13.1 million left to pay out.
Happy Bobby Bonilla Day.
Well, and then also happy Rick DiPietro Day. Not to be outdone, the New York Islanders made their annual payment to former goalie Rick DiPietro on July 1st also for a cool 1.5. This has been going on for 10 years and will continue until 2029. The Isle have paid him $15 million so far not to play.
Shout out New York for those awesome contracts.
Yeah. Serena and Venus Williams are the first Black women to be owners of an NFL team, as the sisters have an ownership stake in the Miami Dolphins that is worth $4.6 billion with a B combined. Good for them.
Good for them. I'm not a tennis fan, but man, can they make some money.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're dominant too.
Yeah.
Speaking of dominant, Rihanna is the first female artist to have 10 songs with over 1 billion Spotify streams. I'm assuming that's a lot because I don't get Spotify really. So,
take that, Taylor Swift.
There you go.
Unless she's probably she's the first
one.
She's the first female with 15 songs.
Oh, well, yeah.
I don't know. I can't stand either one of them.
Well, put it this way, I'll take Rihanna all day over Taylor Swift.
Shania Twain in a heartbeat.
Oh, there you go. Canada's own. Ryan Seacrest is taking over for Pat Sajak as the Wheel of Fortune host, as Sajak will be retiring at the end of the season after 40 years on the show. I can't believe it's been 40 years.
What a run.
And I don't know if Vanna White is staying or going. That was not.
I think there's disputes because she is not getting nearly as much money as she's probably owed and deserved.
Oh.
So I think there's a contract dispute on that one.
All right. Well, we're Team Vanna.
Always.
The Florida Keys, my own stomping grounds, kicked off their 200th birthday celebration by breaking a Guinness record for the world's largest key lime pie. The pie measured in at a whopping 13.14 feet in diameter.
And Joey Chestnut ate it in 3 minutes.
Yeah. Did you see the video of him like walking out, like all trying to look all hard, like this tournament's happening?
What a nerd.
Do you watch the Impractical Jokers?
I've seen them, yes.
So when Joey Chestnut was walking out, it reminded me of Joe Gatto from the Impractical Jokers, like doing a bit. Like I was like, this isn't for real, right?
He is a walking bit. I mean, come on. And I'm sorry, I'm going to say this now, and this might get me shunned by all my American, brothers and sisters. He's not an athlete.
No,
he's not an athlete. Stop making that argument.
I think when Big Cat has him on, I think he just gaslights him, and Joey Chestnut isn't sharp enough to figure it out.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. All right, so no KED, so no Rangers. Thank Lord. Hit us with the stars, buddy.
I was going to say I can do Texas Rangers. No.
Please no.
No. Yeah, I mean, as we talked about earlier, it's going to be interesting to see the locker room dynamic with Duchesne. Again, from what I've been able to kind of gather, Duchesne isn't the greatest in the locker room. Neither is Ryan Suter. And I would like to note that I have never seen a player, and I, correct me in the comments or tweet or thread me. I don't know of any other player that has been booed by every single team that he has been on, including the current one, other than Ryan Suter.
When you and I interviewed Mac Engel, Dallas Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Fort Worth Telegram or something.
Or Star.
Fort Worth Star. Sorry. Shout out Mac Angle. Great guy. He did not disagree with any of your points about Ryan Suter. And that's someone who's been in and around that team for a long time.
Yep. But Jim Nill
verified, like, with your opinion, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and then Jim Nill comes out and says, I don't know why you guys boo him. I don't agree with the comments made about Ryan Suter or the request to buy him out. When you have a guy that eats up that many minutes for the contract that he has, and I'm like, what? You're preaching to the wrong choir. If he doesn't make that boneheaded play in game 2 in the series against Vegas, not saying that the Stars win that series, but we don't go down 3-0. And Ryan Suter is just a liability. I don't think he's very
away from the puck.
Yeah, and I don't think he's a likable human being. Yeah. Sorry, I haven't had a chance to meet him. If I do, I'm going to be cordial. I'm not, I've been very fortunate to have interactions with some NHL, AHL, and ECHL guys. You treat them all the same. They're human beings with badass jobs. But he has given me absolutely zero reason to think this is an all right guy. Aside from the fact that he did face the media in the playoffs when he made a bonehead move and Jamie Benn scurried off to his G-Wagon and then didn't apologize the next day. But, I digress. But outside of that, I think Stars fans are excited to see what Jim Nill has in store. There is a move going to be made for a defensive pickup. The Stars also signed Gavin Bayreuther, by the way, which was an interesting signing, not because we signed him and he used to play for the Stars, but we signed him to a one-way deal. And I'm pretty sure he's been a two-way guy for a very long time.
I think when that happens, it's a horse and carrot situation. Like, look, we want you back. I understand you could go elsewhere, but what if we give you a one-way deal?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean,
because that just means he makes NHL money if he's down in the A.
Yeah, and he wasn't exciting here. When he was here the first time, he bounced back and forth between the A and the NHL. So I don't know really the method behind that one. With that being said, Brownie, tell me a little bit more about the Bruins. What's going on?
So Lucic, very excited to come back. When he was interviewed, I've thought about this moment for the last 7 years. Said he's always felt connected to the Boston while still rooting for all the local teams. And apparently he was so excited because I saw Cam Neely called him. He ran out and bought a Bruins hat at like a local. Can you imagine you're at a Lids looking at hats and you see this big guy walk in and get a Bruins hat. And you could tell it was perfectly flat brim. Like it was a brand new hat. It's pretty funny. Jeremy Swayman, Ian Mitchell, and Trent Frederick all filed for arbitration, but relax, Chumley. That is normal. That's how you get deals done. It doesn't mean it's going. So I saw this breakdown and I tried to I took a picture of it, but I cut off the top of the tweet. So Ty Anderson, maybe it could have been Kevin Paul DuPont, it could have been Connor Ryan, any of these guys. But I wrote it down. So headed into last Friday, and this is for all you fucking Facebook fucking morons.
Keyboard warriors, baby.
Headed into last Friday, the Bruins had almost $11 million in cap space. The Bees went over, like a lot of teams did, the cap by providing performance bonuses, which were somewhere around $7 million, which was due at the end of the season. Therefore, that 10.9 was more in the area of 3.9. So Dmitry Orlov wasn't coming back for that amount, and neither was Tyler Bertuzzi, even though he and his agent, like we talked about, misread the market. Garnet Hathaway might have, but that was only one player when the Bruins only had 6 forward, 5D, and 1 goalie signed. They had a lot of holes.
Mm-hmm.
By moving out Taylor Hall and not re-signing Nick Foligno, the Bruins increased their available cap back up to almost 9.9. Then the team signed Morgan Geekie, Milan Lucic, James Van Riemsdyk, Patrick Brown, and Jason Megna up front, along with Kevin Shattenkirk and Parker Witherspoon on the back end. Ian Mitchell is heading to arbitration, like I said, and the Bees re-upped RFA Jacob Lauko. That means the Bruins added 5 forwards and 3D for $7.2 million, while also getting rid of Mike Riley. They bought him out. that still leaves money on the table for some deals, and there's still other players to be moved now that the Bruins have acquired some depth up front and on the back end, while hoping some of their prospects make the next step this year. And by the way, the Bruins development camp, there was, I think, 8 defensemen. The shortest one was 6 foot.
Jeez.
Do you think maybe Vegas was everybody's going to copy that? So if the cap goes up in 2 seasons as it's supposed to, per cap friendly, the Bruins will have over $30 million to spend. This is
Ooh.
this is the first time that the Bruins will have cap space since Peter Chiarelli rode them into the fucking ground with all his no movement deals. So if Don Sweeney, with help from maybe Lucic, can convince Bergeron and maybe Krejci to give it one last go, who knows? So it is raining. The sky is not falling. Relax is my message to the Bruins nation, the Black and Gold Nation. There,
I think that was well said.
Thank
Also, real quick, your thoughts on the ever so clever, what is it? The anniversary logo that doesn't look
so stupid. It's a money
any
fucking
different.
grab.
Yeah.
So I understand you want to celebrate it, right? But we talked about this on the podcast. I think I made the Bruins my 0 that week because they got bounced. They won the President's Trophy. Who gives a fuck? And then lose in the first round. And then they're like, "Hey, for $1,000, you can get it's $1,000 fucking dollars. You can get a brick that says." Sell the team and put it up there in the fan wall, which I'm sure it has to be approved message, and you get 2 tickets. It's just a fucking money grab. So
100%. All right, moving on. We kind of touched on it a little bit earlier.
Oh, yeah. So Northeastern. So the PHF, which is the Premier Hockey Federation, was bought by the PWHPA. Mark Walters is the main guy. He owns the Dodgers and I think part of Chelsea. His group and Billie Jean King Enterprises, the tennis legend, and will now be one league. This move has been hailed by some as the most significant development in the women's game since ice hockey became an Olympic sport 25 years ago, and it hopes to elevate the league to never-before-seen heights. Unfortunately, all PHF contracts have been voided, but the PWHPA has stated that the league will do whatever possible to help with players and families' visas and moving logistics. There will be less teams, so some players will be left out in the cold, unfortunately. And what's going to happen is the elite superstars were probably going to be fine.
Yeah.
The 3rd and 4th liners are not. They're going to get fucked because I think there's I don't know how many teams excuse me was in the PWHPA, but I don't think they could bring back all 6 teams that were in the PHF. So some people are going to be left out in the cold, and I hope it's none of the Northeastern alums that we enjoy watching so much. I mean, we were so stoked that Chloe Arard and Alina Mueller were going to be on the Boston Pride together. And Brooke Hobson was joining them from the previous year's team. And it was, my daughter was literally like, we're going to every game.
Yeah.
And now no one knows what's going to happen. It's horrible. I understand it because money runs the show, right? But people are going to get fucked over. There's people that made arrangements, kids, visas, spouses.
Yeah,
and
people bought houses, and I mean, then you think about the front offices of all these now former PHF teams. Their jobs are gone.
Yeah,
and this wasn't a glorious league to work in or play in. Rather,
you're in it for the love of the game, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because some of these women were making $35,000 contracts. They're I can't remember who it was or what team, but I even remember, I think it might have been in the Boston Pride. One of the players couldn't play a couple games because she was a cop.
Yeah.
She's a full-time cop and has a job. And, I don't know if you guys know how scheduling works as a police officer. I don't. I just have friends. You can't just say, hey, I can't show up today. I got a hockey game,
Yeah, it's crazy. When I talk to watch your toes here. When I talk to Alina Mueller, three-time Olympian. But when I talked to Alina, at one point she told me, and I don't remember if this when I was interviewing her or just in conversation at the rink, she pointed out to me or whoever was in the conversation that this is it. Like NCAA is everything to them because they love each other so much. And it's not like the men's team when that's why you don't see the one-on-one dangles, one trying to go against 4. It's a team sport in truest measure of the word,
right?
Because they're not playing for their pro contract. They're playing to win what they're doing right now. And it stuck with me. And I think that was last year. It might have been the year before, but it's always stuck with me. And I think of that every time this stuff comes up. And I just feel horrible for these women that are going to get screwed.
Yeah,
You know?
100%. They should have done this in a much different fashion. I think they reacted a little bit too quickly, in my opinion. They should have kept the league as wide open as possible and tried to work around whatever pre-existing teams in the PHF were there and their markets, because they have fan bases and people want to see it. You know, I was a Connecticut Whale fan. We adopted the PHF with the Water Hockey Podcast. We all picked a team and followed it all season. And we got to interact with some really cool people because of it. And it's just a shame because a lot of those women that, you know, were getting excited, you know, their workout regimens, getting dialed in, getting back on the ice. Now they're kind of left, like you said, left out in the cold. They don't know what's going to happen next.
Like, let's have more hockey, not less. Right?
Exactly.
A positive note for the Northeastern section. Coach Carp, friend of the podcast, Coach Nick Carpenito, he was invited to the Washington Capitals development camp, and he's been down there.
That's awesome.
It's great for him. His wife's probably not thrilled because they have 2 kids under 3, but good for him.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So good for him. He spent his 4th of July down there. So, Beer League. You got Beer League? Anything for Beer League?
Yeah, I went to...
Wait. If you got Beer League, I got to play the music.
Can you play the music, Brownie?
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
Yep.
Go ahead, bud.
So as many of you may know from the previous episode of the Morning Skate, I am in fact the zero from last week for Brownie. And I want to give a shout out to the guys that I played with in this tournament down here. They're I'm assuming pretty popular in most metropolitan areas, but it's called Guns and Hoses here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. There are not service members, but first responders leagues, and then, you know, civilian leagues, but all proceeds go to the families of fallen fire and police officers. It's very cool. But that being said, I had an atrocious showing. I got my wrist sliced open by a skate. Because
great pictures though.
Anything for the team. Great pictures. You guys might have heard about them from last week's episode.
No, I mean great pictures of the cut.
Oh yeah. And we're healing up nicely. We're gonna have a scar. It's gonna be great. Part of the tattoo's missing, but it's gonna be great. I want to give a shout out to my boys, my team Water Hockey, because I played that clip for them and they said, who the fuck is this guy? Where's he? What's his problem? And I'm like, guys, it's all in good fun. It's all in good fun. They were ready to go to war. And I'm like,
I prefaced it by I love this
and I
guy.
made sure to add that in the clip. I thought it was funny. I was damn near in tears laughing at it because I know how riled up you got about it. But yeah, I didn't do a damn thing in that tournament, and then I go and play in a Monday night drop in here in this area. But it's more like the Saturday game for Mystery Alaska, where it's like you're playing the same people every week. You're almost always on the same team, and out of nowhere put up 4 goals and 1 assist. And I'm like,
buddy.
all weekend couldn't do a damn thing. And I go and skate, and I'm like, I found my edges. Now I got edges, and now I'm okay. I'm crashing the net, and I'm where I'm supposed to be. And anyway, that's really all I have. I just thought I had to give them a shout out because I thought it was hilarious when that clip played, and they were like, who is this guy? Where's he at? Like, settle down.
That's awesome. We skate was canceled because of the holiday, so there was no skate. So.
Bummer.
Yeah, it is what it is. All right, so what do we got left? We got I gotta get out of this. We got heroes and zeros, and then 3 stars. 2 more heroes and zeros right there. Here we go.
Play it, bro.
What do you got, buddy?
Just phenomenal videography. What do we want to start off with, zeros or heroes first?
I personally like to go 0 then hero and leave on a high note. Ked sometimes comes in pretty hot, so it's up to you.
For me, I'm just gonna go real quick. 0 is the weather. We are recording some of the hottest days that we've had as a planet.
Yeah,
Literally, and I've my friends will say that they've heard me say this before. I'm built like a Yeti cooler. I retain temperature, and so if it's hot, I'm hot, and I
Yeah.
stay hot for a while.
So
So
your hero is Gold Bond.
yeah. I've got 2 deodorant sticks. You guys can figure it out. But that's really the only zero I have. Everything's been pretty kosher other than that. So only 1 zero, and it's just this heat, man. I can't do it.
So my zero is, I think I talked about in the last podcast with our fireworks, the Boom Crew, right? And
Mhm.
the thousands of dollars of fireworks. If you live on the South Shore of Massachusetts, where the 3rd is the big night, and you have a house on the fucking seawall, deal with the fucking fireworks. If another fucking donkey comes out on his fucking deck and is like, "Can you move further down the beach?" I am shooting the firework onto your deck next year. So you're the zero. So that was my only thing. And I did the math, and I apparently, while shooting off fireworks, I think I put away a 12-pack of Bud Heavies along with room temperature fireball nips. So
America.
I walked up I came up the stairs. I came up the stairs from the beach, and apparently my wife looked at me. She told me the next day, and she went, "Oh boy."
You're gonna be in one. You're gonna be in one tomorrow.
Yeah. Luckily the next day was rainy. So
Oh, there you
what
go.
do you got for a hero, bud?
Hero, I think I can speak for both of us, America.
Sure.
But the big hero for me, and I'm sounding repetitive, Taco Bell.
Oh yeah.
Brought back the volcano menu. It's been a glorious ride. I've had it 4 times since it came out last week. I'm not ashamed to say that. Burn a lot of calories when I'm skating. So thank you, Taco Bell, for doing me the service of bringing back my childhood taste buds and me realizing that I've liked the same shit for over 20 years now.
So I'm looking for the thing from Ked because he texted me the order. Here it is. How much is this going to be horrible?
It's going to be so good.
I'm looking for it here. A cheesy gordita crunch,
One of the best things on the menu.
a volcanic burrito, which looks horrifying,
Amazing.
a crunch wrap supreme,
Unbelievable.
and Baja Blast.
I mean, just a drink of choice.
So can I get this stuff without sour cream and guacamole?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but I understand.
Both disgust me. I can't.
Fair.
I'm a purist.
I can't speak highly enough for that order. Ked just made himself a hero of the week with that order. But I would recommend also getting the volcano taco. That's the picture I sent earlier of the red tortilla.
Volcano taco instead of because the volcanic burrito. I honestly looked at a picture of it and I had like a moment of dry heave, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to even unwrap that without vomiting.
It's in a tortilla, so you don't really see it. And you know what?
Unwrap the packet, like the whole idea, like because
It's
I
so
go
good.
to a great burrito place and they're so good, and I don't want this to turn me off on burritos. So I think I might do your taco instead.
That's
and
fair.
Call me a pussy all you want, but
that's fair. I mean, I'm just gonna say this, Brownie, and we can move on to the 3 stars. Everyone's beautiful in the dark, so just turn the lights off and eat it.
Well, the plus side is I know the chickens will eat it when I vomit and then give them the rest of the meal because they eat everything. My hero though is have you seen this giant orb on the Vegas Strip?
Yes, absolutely.
That's my hero because number one, it's cool as shit, and number two, these fucking morons are getting in accidents watching it while they're driving. So, God, whoever put that thing up there, good on you. You're my hero of the week because that thing's awesome. That thing is fantastic. I'd be enraged if I was in the traffic, but
oh yeah,
I think it's hilarious because I'm not. So
at least you'd have something to look at.
Yeah, sure. All right, here we go. 3 stars.
Those videos will never get old.
So he didn't tell me he was putting those in until we were recording. I was like, what the fuck?
That's amazing.
Because we went over there and did all those, and the woman who runs the rink listens to the podcast. Shout out Paula. And she was like, yeah, do whatever you want. We were on the ice for like 2 hours doing all this ridiculous stuff, me and my buddy. Yeah. So, I got another zero, actually. Hey, Johnny, if you listen to this recording, you're another zero. He calls me today on his drive to Connecticut, And he goes, "Hey, I just listened to the podcast and I was roaring laughter." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, you enjoyed it, man. I appreciate that." Yeah. He goes, "I've only listened to it a couple of times." I'm like, "You fucking dick." And he's like, "Well, it's really funny." And I'm like, "So therefore, watch it more, rate it, subscribe, you know." And he's like, "All right, all right." So
That goes out to all you listening.
yeah, for sure. So the 3 stars is in honor of Harrison Ford putting on the old fedora yet again as Indiana Jones. No spoilers. We said, what are some our top 3 historic, repetitive, cinematic characters?
Yep.
Because I immediately was like, "Oh, my favorite character would be Jack Walsh from Midnight Run," but it's a solo shot, so can't have him. So we did. Do you have any honorable mentions?
Not that I can think of because, well,
Oh, we'll do the honorable mentions after. That
yeah,
way you
yeah,
can
yeah.
think while we're
If
talking.
anything pops up, yeah.
All right, go ahead. Who's your number 3, bud?
Number 3, these are all going to be nerdy. I
Oh,
nerd
fine.
out on all of the movies. Number 3, and this might be a bit of an unpopular opinion, but it's going to be Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader,
Okay.
because he was obviously kind of shunned. They said that, he didn't do a great job. He was given a bad script, what have you. And then he was welcomed back. I don't know if you're hip to jive with the Star Wars lore or watched any of the shows, but he made a return as Darth Vader in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series that Disney Plus came out with. And there was a very, very like kind of crucial scene where they kind of met again, and it was really cool. So him reprising his role and being Anakin Skywalker, then turning into Darth Vader, and then bringing him back as Darth Vader was a really cool kind of homage, and I thought that was badass.
So you're saying that your 3rd star is Hayden Christensen as Darth Vader, not just Darth Vader. Because I have Darth Vader in my honorable mentions because he's a great character.
I'll go with that because he started off as Anakin Skywalker, so we knew what he was going to end up as, but he built the character up until it happened, and then with the recent Obi-Wan series, they brought him back and put him in the Darth Vader suit again, let him go, and it was cool. It was cool to see.
Is that Obi-Wan series worth watching if you haven't kept up with Star Wars? Like I've seen all the Marvel stuff, so I know all the backstories, but I haven't kept up with Star Wars. But I do like Ewan McGregor.
If you have watched the quote unquote 1, 2, 3, the Phantom Menace, Attack of the I don't know which one it was, and then the Revenge of the Sith, the ones that came out in like the early 2000s with Ewan McGregor, and then how it kind of goes into the classic Star Wars trilogy. It bridges that gap of what happens with Obi-Wan and what happens with Darth Vader, kind of going through that. So it's worth a watch. If I would say maybe go watch those movies again and then kind of refresh your memory. It'll be a lot cooler to see. But it was a fun watch.
Okay. So my number 3 star is a completely different direction than yours.
Okay.
I'm going with my man Keanu Reeves, John Wick.
Oh, great choice.
John Wick is one of the best characters because this entire thing is because they killed his dog.
Yeah, you don't do that.
And I can get behind that.
Same.
John Wick. I mean, I love Keanu Reeves. What a guy, hockey guy too. I tried to find his like social media stuff to see if I could get him to come on the podcast to talk about hockey, and he has none.
No, and for those that are curious as to why he'd be interested in hockey, not only did he play growing up, but he played the goalie in Youngblood.
Yep.
And he had one line, I believe, and it was, "That man is fucking animal."
Go ahead with your number 2, bud.
Number 2, I've debated on switching number 1 and 2, but because, and we've said this word twice already, so I'm going to say it a third time. The gravitas behind my number 1 pick will make sense, but number 2 for me,
my number 1 pick is very different than yours. Then go ahead.
Probably my number 2 pick, and sticking with the nerd theme, Michael Keaton, Batman. Is that what you picked?
My number 2. All right, I'm gonna have to go to a different one then.
You can have Ben Affleck.
No, Michael Keaton's my Batman.
But yeah, I have not seen The Flash. It was in the preview, so he comes back.
Yeah.
But that Batman 1989 and then Batman Returns in 92 or just it probably shaped my childhood as far as like superheroes and realizing how much I was into them.
He is an underrated actor. I mean, he gets the acclaim now for that Birdman movie,
Yeah,
but
but
he
when
had
he came out,
a
yeah,
string of hits like uh
Multiplicity was a really good one.
Mr. Mom, Gung Ho. He just Night Shift. You ever seen Night
Mhm.
Shift? Oh,
I have, yeah.
he's unbelievable. All right, so I'm gonna have to pivot here.
And he was
Uh,
chastised. He was heavily chastised for taking that role as Batman because he had played so many comedic roles, and people were like, he can't play Batman. And then he essentially shaped what people wanted to see him in as Batman.
yeah. So I had him as my number 2 also. So I'm gonna pivot, right? I'm gonna go to the Rocky movie universe, the extended
Okay.
Rocky universe, and I'm not gonna go Balboa, and I'm not gonna go Creed. I would have gone Clubber Lang if he had been in another movie,
Mhm.
because he was fucking awesome. I am going with Paulie for my number 2.
Oh, I thought you were going to go a curveball and give me Ivan Drago when he came back.
I thought about Drago, but there wasn't much to his character.
Right.
Paulie had a real arc, and
Yeah.
one of the best lines in all of the Rocky movies when he's like, "If I could unzip my skin and step out and be anybody else, I'd be you, Rocco." And then when Rocky's getting his head caved in, he's like, "Remember what I said?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Forget it." He had the driest delivery. Burt Young is the actor's name. I don't know if he's still alive, but he was fucking great. So I'm gonna go with Paulie. But there you go.
All right, number one, sticking with the nerd theme, and I think
Mhm.
my nerd fans and my fellow Marvel fans will appreciate this because it's just down roots. Like it is the quintessential appearance up until he passed away. Stan Lee in
Mhm.
every single Marvel movie. He may have not played the same character. There was some theories that he was a watcher of sorts, and then they
Yep.
kind of tied it. But you cannot have Marvel without Stan Lee.
Yep.
And for him to be in every single movie in some way, shape, or form up until he passed away was just it was phenomenal. And so, you always went to a Marvel movie when he was around, going, all right, when are we going to
Yeah.
see
Where
him?
am I gonna see him? Right.
So he's the number one for me.
I will say that in terms of Marvel, I feel like they've casted everybody pretty spot on. I think they've
Yeah,
done an excellent job with every actor, uh, including Brie Larson as
Marvel. Yeah.
Marvel. I think they've done an excellent job. I do respect that choice, and it kind of ties into my number one.
Okay.
My number one is a duo,
Okay.
Jay and Silent Bob. They're my favorite cinematic characters. Yeah, if you follow me on socials, you saw me and my daughter went to the Quick Stop. We went to their comic book store. She wanted a comic book, and come hell or high water, she was buying her first fucking comic at Kevin Smith's comic book store.
Which
Um,
that reality show they did with them. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it follows the comic book store and their staff,
oh
and
yeah, because they did a
it's a
podcast from there. Yeah,
yeah, it's really good.
yeah, they have a whole back room with the podcast. But in Captain Marvel, when Stan Lee is on the bus, when she's trying to figure out who's a Krull,
Hmm.
he is reading the script of Clerks, which is Kevin Smith.
There you go.
We tied it all together.
We didn't plan this. We didn't
No,
plan
we
this,
did
by the
not
way.
plan this. We did not plan this because we never share the 3 stars. But yeah, Stan Lee was very featured in a lot of Kevin Smith films as well and referenced.
Yep.
All right, I'm just going to buzz through these. These are my honorable mentions. Keanu Reeves yet again as Neo.
Mhm.
We talked about the Rocky actors. The Wet Bandits, Daniel Stern and Joe Pesci.
Oh yeah.
They were great. Christian Bale would be my number 2 Batman. Pete Mitchell, Maverick.
I was gonna say that was my honorable mention.
Yeah. Ethan Hunt also in the Mission Impossible movies because that guy is going to die sometime on screen trying to entertain us, and I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I think he's a lunatic and he is part of a cult, but
Yep.
goddamn, he makes entertaining
He
movies.
is entertaining as hell. Which, by the way, I'll say a hopeful honorable mention is his reprisal. I don't know if you've seen this. Is Cole Trickle because they're apparently looking to
Days of
develop
Thunder
Days
too.
of Thunder. Yeah,
Yeah, which is great. Great movie.
love that movie.
Marty McFly, Michael J. Fox.
Of course.
John McClane from the
course.
Diehards. And then the last one, this came to me because I saw something of him. Beverly Hills Cop, man, Axel Foley. Eddie Murphy that people don't realize that movie like kind of shifted the buddy cop comedy.
Mhm.
It was a groundbreaking role for Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
So
I have 2 honorable mentions, and they're from the same franchise just because I was a sucker for these movies, and I still am to this day. One, before he passed away, Paul Walker as Brian from Fast and Furious, and then, of course, he's been in every single one, even Tokyo Drift. Vin Diesel, family.
yeah, Dom Toretto, right? And
Yeah,
that's
family. Yeah,
those movies are so out of control at this
they're
point.
ridiculous.
Oh, my last one too. I almost forgot. And the only reason I remembered is because I could see the skull bong that I made out of a bottle of tequila, which I've named after this guy, Peter Venkman from the Ghostbusters franchise.
Oh,
Yeah.
God, they ruined that. They ruined that.
They're making there's another one. The movie's done. Afterlife 2. Yeah.
So, well, I could go on and on, but we're almost to 2 hours. Sorry,
I know.
Ted.
Ed is fucking skin crawling right now because we're at almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
So
hey, it was free agent frenzy. We had to go over every team and all the news.
There was a lot. So Fink, you got anything for the end for the people?
Just thanks for having me again. All shout out to Ked, support to him.
Yeah.
If you are looking for Texas hockey, at Wada Hockey on all social media platforms, and you can find me on Threads.
Great gear.
Thank
Yes,
you,
you can
thank
find
you.
me on Threads as well. And I just got a text from Alina Mueller. No big deal.
Oh, big deal.
But as always, shout out to the big guy, Jerome McGinley. Hope you had a great birthday, and I really would hope that you would fix your franchise for all the Flame fans out there, and I count myself as one of them. That's my Western Conference team.
I love Jerome McGinley. If anyone has an extra Blasty jersey from Jerome McGinley era, please let me know.
Well, thanks everybody for sticking with us, and we will see you next week back with Kedder, and yeah, that's it for us. Have a good night. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Now I got to figure out how to stop
and record. Top right.
There it is. Well, I had the full screen, man. Get off my back. All right. Thanks, everybody.